So can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? With that microphone right there? I had a dean once that it was like he was swallowing the microphone, so when he was talking, it sounded like he was yelling, and it was just absolutely obnoxious. And we got to shut that off because it's got feedback. So can we go to that first slide? So before I begin, what the heck? Let's try this down here. How's that? Better. Before I begin this talk, I need you guys to pull out either your cell phones or a pad and a pen, and we're going to write stuff down because we're going to unpack these questions at the end of my talk. Okay? And now this isn't a test or anything like this. These are just 3 questions that I like to ask people when I give this speech because when we get to the end, I want to see where you're at. So the first question is, in just a couple of words, how do you define the role or the purpose of a leader? Like, what is it you say? Not what a book says, not what you learn somewhere. What is it that you say a leader does? Number 2, what individual, when I say leader, what individual pops into your mind? Close your eyes really quick, think of somebody. It can be living, dead, fictional, real. What individual pops into your head when you think of a leader? And number 3, because this word is overused so much, what does the word leadership mean to you? When you think of a great leader, what words pop into your head? Like if I say think of a giraffe, you think of a long neck, right? Or tall. What words pop into your head when you think of a leader? And once you have that down, everybody got it? Yeah? Anybody need any extra time thinking about this? I'm not going to test you. I don't bite. Okay? But I am going to probably call on a few of you. Does anybody know what the number one fear is? What's the number one fear that people have? Okay, public speaking. They threw it out there. More people are afraid to stand up here in front of you and actually talk than they are of dying, of plane crashes, of spiders, and of rattlesnakes. Okay? So it's like people are looking at you, so people get all nervous about doing this stuff. Belinda, can we switch that slide? They're talking over there. They're not even paying attention. See, I bored them already. They're having a conversation on their own. Okay. So, I was asked to come and give this talk to you guys, right? And at first it was like, hey, Eric, can you come talk to high school leadership? And I was like, yeah, talk to principals, talk to school superintendents, no problem. And they went, no. You need to talk to teenagers. And I went, oh, hell, how do I do that? And so I thought about all of the stuff that I get called in to speak upon and to teach and pontificate and write and research. And then I thought to myself, what would I want to have if I could go back and be that kid? Okay? That long-haired hippie kid. That picture was taken in 1994, August of 1994 at the Grand Canyon. All right? If you asked that kid what he wanted to be, what he would tell you is he wanted to be a history teacher. He wanted to live on a sailboat. He wanted to smoke pot. That's what that kid wanted to do, okay? So now this is the why of this talk, and this is why they asked me to come here for you, is to give you this gift. The what is horrible. Asking the what doesn't matter, because you want to know why? That skinny kid with the glasses on standing there at the graduating Air Force boot camp, that is 1 year later. That's 12 months later. So the what really doesn't matter as much, but the who does. Because the who is still a part of that kid. It's how that kid still feels today as a grown man, as a middle-aged grown man who's breaking down, all right? But if you look at that kid standing there, went from 275 pounds, hammer thrower, 4-year college scholarship. All I had to do was go to class, study, and throw the hammer, which is a track and field event, and that was it. And I had a 4-year free ride. And that kid blew it. That kid's blood alcohol level was higher than his GPA. That kid partied his butt off because that kid didn't know what the what was. And so when I came here to give you this talk today, I want to give you the who. And why does it matter? It matters because today, as we speak, a child has been born that will live to see 150. In fact, it might even be some of you in here. So for those of you that are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, asking what you want to be, it's not fair to you. But asking who you want to be, that matters. And here's why. Because your who always goes with you. If you're a basketball player, that's a what. But your who is you're dedicated. You have drive. You believe in teamwork. That's going to transcend from the basketball court to your life, right? That who goes with you. And so my thing is, if I can give you any advice, it's this. Really work on honing and whittling out and strengthening your who. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So there's a roadmap. And some people will be like, meh. But there's a roadmap to success. There's a roadmap to having legitimate power. There's a roadmap to happiness. And it all comes down to your who. It's who you are. Your great companies and leaders that you see in the world today and in the past have understood this. They've understood that your success and your legitimate power comes from others. And it comes to you as a gift, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it can't be taken. And your success doesn't come on your own. The idea of anybody in here study like an advanced English, studying Horatio Alger's work or something like that? They talked about like Ragged Dick, this rugged individualist and everything. You don't go through this world alone. You don't. Not in some communist way, but you don't go through this world alone. Others have to go with you. And so when I was putting this talk together today, I was saying to myself, what gift can I give you when you leave? And the gift is this, the philosophy of servant leadership. Because if you can hone what I'm going to talk to you about, these characteristics and constructs in your heart, your relationships will be better, your friendships will be better, education will be better, and one day you will be successful at whatever it is that you do. Because servant leadership lives within you. And it's my job to show where it's at, and then it's your job for the rest of your life to hone it out and to make yourself stronger and better than to constantly study it. So where does it come from? Modern servant leadership was founded and theorized by a man by the name of Robert Greenleaf. Robert Greenleaf was an executive with AT&T, an executive trainer, managerial trainer. And what Greenleaf saw was that society and organizations were toxic, okay? So the behavior within organizations was horrible. People hated being there. The way that management and leadership was going on, it was rancid. And people were made to feel horrible. And Greenleaf decided there's got to be a better way. And where did his thought process come from? Greenleaf was a Quaker. Greenleaf studied philosophy. Greenleaf studied Eastern thought. And then he studied a book by Hermann Hesse called The Journey to the East. And a character in The Journey to the East by the name of Leo was serving this group of people, these climbers, these trekkers out there. And Leo disappeared one day. And then they found Leo again. They searched for him. Where was he? And he was back in his village. And come to find out, Leo was a king. Leo was a noble. But he served his people. And so Greenleaf went, aha, there's a better way of doing this. And so Greenleaf penned the modern philosophy of servant leadership. And it begins with 3 pragmatic questions. Servant leadership has 3 foundational questions that you have to ask yourself. 1, do those being served grow as people? 2, do those being served become more likely to be servant leaders? And 3, and this is important, especially for those of you who one day will find yourself in positions of decision and power. What is the effect of your decisions to the most vulnerable in society? If I raise taxes 1% on everybody in this country, Oprah Winfrey doesn't miss a meal. But if I raise it on a family of 4 making $25,000 a year, guess what? They're going to have to make changes to their life, right? Well, that's because they're the vulnerable populations. And when we sit in positions of power and we sit in positions of authority, we have power over individuals. And so we learn that when we speak to people, when we're around them, that we do it in a humble way. Yeah. I know a few of you are sitting here going, yeah, Eric, this is all really nice and everything, but it sounds like ice cream for breakfast. But the fact is it's not. If you choose that this becomes your who for the rest of your life, being a servant leader, 1, is extremely difficult, and 2, working for a servant leader is extremely difficult. Why? Because the servant leader will always make sure that you live up to standards that you yourself did not know you had. They will push you to heights that you didn't know you could realize. And so when you think about the skepticism, and there is skepticism, it's somewhat deserved in the literature. But I'm here to tell you, the skepticism about this isn't true. And it comes from my work. A few years ago, I had an idea about this stuff because I had a colleague of mine say, yeah, Eric, servant leadership is ice cream for breakfast. I went, oh, hell. And so I was like, how can I make it so people don't believe this anymore? And what I found is that there is a cycle of benefit that exists. When you serve other people, you benefit. There is a rational self-interest in other people making it. So let's say you have a team. You've been put in charge of a team, so you're a team leader, okay? That team lacks the equipment that they need. One of the team members has a very important exam that they need to be studying for. Another one on the team is taking care of an elderly parent, and they need to actually be home. So if you're not making sure that their needs are met, and they have the time off to study, and they have the time off to take care of the parent, then that's what they're thinking about. Anybody in here, show of hands, ever study Maslow? Does anybody know who Maslow is or has ever heard of the hierarchy of needs? Okay, so your people, good, I like this. Your people are stuck in what's called the physiological need. And like Maslow said, for the individual who is dangerously hungry, all they can think about is food. Well, you as a servant leader understand that if those needs are met, you can't actually get out of your people what it is you need to get out of them, which is their best. And we think of it about pay in the United States and the way that we pay people and benefits like this. A sign of a failed leader is if your people have to get off from a full-time job and go work a part-time job just to make ends meet. You're not going to get your best out of your people. But when you serve your people in turn can serve you. They become creative, they become innovative, and they can build things that you benefit from. So you get more money, more success, more legitimate power as your people succeed. Because another thing, get it in your head right now, your most precious resource are your people. Nothing else matters. If their needs aren't met, you are a failed leader. And if you're working for people where your needs aren't being met, and you're struggling in that lower level, that lower physiological need level, you're never going to be able to self-actualize. You'll never be able to obtain greatness. And so that's the soapbox. But now I want to show you the characteristics. After Robert Greenleaf, other authors and researchers and academics came along and they started studying servant leadership. And one of those people was Larry Spears. And we're going to talk about two. One's Larry Spears and the other one is Dr. Kathleen Patterson, who developed the constructs. Larry Spears noticed that there was 10 characteristics of a servant leader. These characteristics exist in every single one of you. And every single one of you is capable of honing these things out from your soul and becoming what this is. Who are you? You're a listener. Why does listening matter? You can be like, Eric, yeah, whatever, I can hear. That's not what I'm saying. It's, are you able to listen to the things that are being said and the things that aren't being said? You'll have a friend come with you and you'll be like, what's wrong? And they'll be like, nothing. But you know in your heart, something's wrong with them. Because you're listening to the things that aren't being said. Because you're active listening. You want to be a powerful individual, learn to be a good listener. I know it's kind of hypocritical because I'm standing on a stage talking to you right now. But if you want to be powerful, learn to listen. Because you will hear what people really need. You will hear the truth that's going on. Because another thing, when you find yourself in a position of power, you will not always hear the truth. Because of self-preservation. People that work with you and that work for you and things like that, or even friends, they fear. They fear losing a friendship. They fear getting fired. That's power. So when people have that over somebody else, you have to listen. You have to listen attentively and listen to the things that aren't being said. And have situational awareness. Part of listening is actually understanding what's going on. We teach this to firefighters. We teach this to military. Okay? We teach people that eyes don't kill, hands do. Because you have to be aware. You have to be situationally aware. And you have to listen. And listen to the things that are being said and the things that aren't being said. And as professional responders, we would deal with this a lot in domestic abuse. You would go up and the patient would be there. Most of the time would be a female. She would be bruised and battered, and you'd say, well, what happened? Well, I fell. There in your mind, you're going, that's a bunch of BS. I know you didn't fall. I know that guy over there did that to you. But you have to be attentive. You have to listen to the things that aren't being said. You have to develop empathy for others. So what is empathy? Empathy is the exact opposite of sympathy. Sympathy is power. Does anybody realize that? It's positional. When you have sympathy on somebody, you're actually looking down on that individual. Even though you don't mean to. I know, you don't mean to. You're like, I'm sympathetic for the cause. I get it. But the fact is empathy is different. Empathy allows you to get down to an individual where they're at in the moment. Anybody ever hear the phrase, walk a mile in their shoes? Some of you could ski in one of my shoes, okay? But you walk a mile in people's shoes. That's being empathetic. As professional responders, we have to be empathetic because we treat the person. We don't treat the what, we treat the who. And having empathy on an individual allows you to go in non-judgmental, without judgment, without thinking that you're better than somebody else. And it really makes you approachable to people. And that empathy is powerful. Who are you? You're a healer. In society today, and I know a lot of you deal with it, and if you don't want to admit it, that's fine. Bullying, sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia. These cause wounds in people. They cut people deep. Does anybody know why calling somebody, let's say the N-word or an other derogatory word, do you know why that hurts as much as it does to people? It's because you're reducing them. You, who's supposed to be empathetic with your fellow human being and on a level playing field, you reduce them to that word. You take them from being an equal human being, and an equal part, right? And you reduce them to the word. And that's why it's so hurtful. And wounds do need to be healed. There's a lot of people out there, there's even people in this room that have been abused, physically, emotionally, sexually. And these wounds need to be healed for them. These individuals have to be made whole again. You as a servant leader have to understand that, because until you can get these people to self-actualize and to achieve, and your friends to achieve, and even for you to achieve, because part of healing is healing yourself. You have to be willing to heal. You have to recognize it and talk about it. Listen, life is a facade. I'm telling you right now, if I can teach you one thing as an adult, if you go to like Daybreak, okay, which is a housing development out, I think it's in South Jordan or something like that, and go tour a model home. The model home has all the best features in it. It has granite cabinets and stainless steel appliances and you name it. It's just beautiful. Most of the stuff that's in there isn't even real. The television, you like kick it over and it weighs like 6 ounces. It's made of cardboard. It's a facade. Life is a facade. And the worst thing that's happened to your generation, and to a lot of other generations too, is social media. It makes you think that everybody else's life is all puppy does and rainbows, you know, unicorns and glitter. And it's not. People have this facade. They put on this armor. They put on this costume when they leave the house. And they put on this costume when they deal with you, but yet the pain still exists. But if you expect those individuals to ever transcend, when you're a leader one day, when you're in charge, if you're the captain of a team, the captain of the cheerleading squad, whatever it is that you do, those people have to be healed and made whole. Does that make sense? Awareness. When Greenleaf was penning Servant Leadership, he said that an aware person, that awareness is a leader who is constantly and reasonably disturbed. You're thinking about your people, you're thinking about your organization, you're thinking about the things that have to happen, you're thinking about the things that haven't happened yet. You're aware because you're consciously aware. You have the ability to think. And you have the ability to reflect on it. So who are you? You're somebody that's aware. You're aware of the needs of others. You're aware of the surroundings. When you deal with professional responders and you spend some time with them, I don't know if any of you have parents that are military or police or fire, things like that. We're always aware. We can tell you where the doors are, the exits are, whether or not the room has fire suppression system in it, where the closest, fire extinguisher is. Because you're aware, we just hone this into our people. And we hone this into people's lives when we're building servant leaders. It's because you're aware of the things. Because sometimes people can't be aware that are actually in the moment, that are in that creative moment. They're not aware. You know, when my wife's leaving the house, she's a full-time academic, she's a full-time doctoral student, and I'm like, do you have your flash drive? Yes. Do you have your keys? Yes. Do you have your wallet? Yes. It's not because she's smarter than me, okay? It's because she's in her thinking mode, her genius mode. She's spending time in that, and it's my job to be aware for her and to make sure that she has the things that she needs. And she would do the same thing for me when I was doing my doc. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Awareness is huge. Oh, and by the way, awareness means that you don't walk through a crosswalk looking at your phone. Because there's no way in hell that you can actually be aware while staring at a screen, okay? Now, who am I? I'm persuasive. I'm not coercive. I can't coerce you into being a servant leader. I can try. I can intimidate you. I can bully you. I can demand it of you. But why wouldn't I just persuade you to do it? And persuasion is your ability to argue and convince people that what it is you're trying to do and what it is you're trying to sell works for them. Whereas coercion is, you're going to do it, damn it, because I said so. Well, now you're doing it out of fear. And we all know what happens when you guys study the revolutions out of fear, right? Usually people end up with their heads in a guillotine, okay? Eventually the powerful fall. That's like the only saving grace of this kind of behavior, right? But persuasion, if you can persuade people, and believe me, if you're a servant leader, and we'll go through the constructs too, you have what's called trust. Your people trust you. So persuading somebody to take on something else is not difficult. Why? Because they trust you. So when you speak, they want to do it. For our profession and what we did for a living, my people had to trust me that I was making the right call because I was sending them into harm's way. In reality, I have asked other people to do something that had the really good possibility that they were not going to go home the next day. If things went wrong, we were dead. And they had to have that trust for me. So my persuasion, yeah, it came as an order. I was an officer, blah, blah, blah. But they trusted me. So they studied Vietnam, and they found out that a lot of first lieutenants would get out of the academy and they would be headed over to Vietnam. And people had been there for like 1, 2 tours. And the fighting was hellacious. I mean, Vietnam was horrific. If you meet a Vietnam vet, thank him. Okay? They shot their own second lieutenants. Because these individuals who never had any stick time in the field, they would want to come in and they would want to be the hero. They would want to get the medals pinned on their chest and things like that. And so the people that were more seasoned into battle, who didn't want their brothers that were fighting on their left and on their right, would be like, this guy's going to walk into some armament when the fighting starts. The persuasive love leader has more power than you can realize, because if your people love you and they trust you, they'll take a bullet for you. But if you're a coercive bully, when the shooting starts, they'll duck. And that's the greatest difference. Anybody know what conceptualization is? Anybody ever heard the ability to conceptualize? Okay, we got one back there. All right. What conceptualization is it's the ability to understand and look at the whole. The system as a whole. Okay? If you look at a team, and I'll just go, I don't know, pick a sport, baseball, all right? You can't have everybody's just a pitcher, right? Everybody has to play a different position. So you have to be able to conceptualize the team working together. Music is this way too. You have in a great rock band, you have a bass player, a drummer, a guitarist, maybe a lead guitarist, a singer, maybe somebody on a tambourine. But the ability to conceptualize is how to bring all of that together. Because when you bring it all together in harmony, it's beautiful. And so your ability to conceptualize is your ability to see something that's not even there yet, but not see it in a small system, but see it as a whole. See it in an operation. Your ability to conceptualize allows you to dream big. Because you can conceptualize the entire structure, the entire system, the entire process. One of my favorite vehicles, I'm not a big car guy, but one that I actually really like is a Maserati. A Maserati is beautiful, okay? They're gorgeous. But if you pull the transmission out of a Maserati and you put the damn thing in a Hyundai, you don't have a Maserati anymore. You just have a Hyundai with a transmission from a Maserati. The reason the Maserati is a brilliant vehicle is because of the entire system. The whole system, from the way the rims are and the tires to the engine to the fuel systems to the fine handmade leather inside. That's what makes it beautiful, because somebody sat down and conceptualized the entire thing. They conceptualized the whole, and they conceptualized it from something that never existed before. So if you can hone in on your ability to conceptualize, you can dream big things, and you can see it as a system as a whole. You see the needs that the system has. You see the people that you have to bring in. You see the different parts. But then you can also back up, because you can bring people in that will bring that to fruition. And then your job is to serve them, to bring that conceptualization to life. We'll talk about vision in a minute. Foresight. Robert Greenleaf said that the individual who does not have foresight and is a leader is a failed leader. Why? Because you don't have the ability to see future need. Okay? Foresight is what gets you to the next level. Your great companies, your great tech companies, and their leaders, they have foresight. They see what you need before you need it. Sometimes it's a little ridiculous, the crap that they actually see, but they see things before you need it. They have foresight, they have vision. They can understand what the market forces are going to be in the future. In the next 20 years, 50% or more of the jobs that exist today are gone. Why are they gone? AI. Artificial intelligence is going to take them away. They will be done by something else that's not a human being. So what is your foresight when I say that to you? What do you think about for the future needs? For you, your friends, what are you talking about? What are the future needs? Well, that's foresight. The future needs are is the jobs, the foresight that's happening that we don't understand, I'm definitely not intelligent enough to understand this stuff, is bleeding edge research on these issues. Is people that are looking at this stuff and looking at jobs and professions and careers and things in existence that nobody even knows exist yet. Because they have foresight. And when you're in charge of a team, when you're a team leader, and in high school you're in charge of a team, you might be a team captain. Do you have foresight for that team? Are you actually out there studying the other teams that you're going to be in competition with? Are you seeing what they're doing? Are you looking at yours? Are you conceptualizing your team? Can you conceptualize their needs and have the foresight to actually build it up to get them to that next level, to compete? And that's who you want to be, is you want to be somebody who can hone your foresight and have foresight. Stewards. Some of you here are wearing your school colors, right? You actually have on the sweaters, the t-shirts, you have it. You're riding for your brand. Good for you. But guess what? You're a steward of it. So if you're standing there in your school colors, and I go walking out there to cool off because I'm kind of a large guy, and I like to go outside and get cool because sometimes it gets very hot inside. I'm also a New Englander if you can't tell. And I see you out there in your school colors and you're smoking a cigarette, you represent your school. Now, I'm not coming down hard on you if you're doing that. I'm not your parents. But I'm just saying you have these colors on. You are a steward of your institution. You are a steward of your school. You as an individual, and I know this is a lot of pressure, represent that institution in that moment. That's why when you see on the news, a firefighter did this, arson, a police officer did this, or a teacher did this, people start thinking, well, are all firefighters doing that? Are all police officers doing that? Are all teachers doing that? You have to be a steward for your organization. You have to have your organization not just be successful within, but your organization be successful without in a community. If you look at the most supported organizations where the lines are coming out the doors, or their actual services or their products are used, they are stewards to society. Their products actually mean something to people. Does that make sense? I mean, stewardship is like way high sometimes on the level. It's like most people are like, yeah, whatever. But it's true, you ride for your brand. So when I would have a young airman that would get popped drinking underage at a downtown bar, and the dummy would actually have on like a Air Force Fire and Emergency Services t-shirt, that individual represented me. And in the moment, even though that individual wasn't an officer or a chief or a general, that individual represented everybody that I love and serve with. And that's what being a steward of your organization is just having it be beautiful and brilliant and respected out into the community, and have it be a part of a community. We can't exist internally. As your people grow, and we talked about this with the cycle of benefit, as your people grow, you grow. As your people achieve, you achieve. Even if it's something as simple as finding happiness in seeing the success of others. Has anybody in here studied The Wealth of Nations? A little bit. I wish I saw more hands. Did you know The Wealth of Nations and the Declaration of Independence were written in the exact same year? I don't even get me on that kick. Great book. Adam Smith was a moral philosopher, and he said that sometimes you derive happiness just from seeing other people succeed. So as you see your people grow, like now, this is my second career being a professor, I love seeing my people succeed, my students succeed. I love seeing them come back years later and they're wearing their uniform. They're a commissioned officer in the military. They're a professional firefighter, paramedic. I get happiness. I derive happiness because I get to see them grow. Because as your people grow, they what? They become creative and they become innovative. And that creativity and that innovation strengthens you. And you benefit by it. You know, if your people, if your friends and everything, and in the group of people that you're hanging out with, if they're behaving in a certain way and they're doing a certain way and you're with them, you're like, and just pretending, and then going behind their back and being completely different. You're training, you're studying, you're eating right. And you're not telling them, hey, we all need to be doing this together. We all need to grow together. You're keeping that light, hidden from them. And so having the commitment to the growth of people benefits you. Set out to build community. Who am I? I'm a community builder. Why does it matter? Because people matter. The bigger your community, the more dense your community, the more diverse your community, I'm telling you right now, you will be a better off person, you will be a better off leader, and your organization will do better. And community is easy to build. You bring people together, have some food, and if you're an adult, have something else too. Okay? Community is easy to build. It's just bringing people together. It's serving the same mission. It's seeing that we're going to get through this together, because the more diverse and the more robust and the more rich your community, the more successful you're going to be. As a faculty member, my power comes from my students. School administrators, their power comes from their faculty. And when they can build community amongst people and bring people together, they're more powerful in that community. Because the community becomes the herd, right? We've all watched National Geographic, watching a wildebeest getting taken down. We've watched this, okay? When the herd sticks together and they fight together, wolves with buffalo, when they can actually get one of the buffalo away from the herd, that's dinner. But when the herd sticks together and that community sticks together, they're strong. A wolf can't do anything to that community. But when it can separate that community and separate it out, the dinner bell rings. And so you as a leader need to be willing to build community. So from this work, a woman by the name of Dr. Kathleen Pattison, who I owe more to than I can even admit, developed the 7 constructs of the servant leader. So this is the 7 constructs of what comes through. This is deeper in your who than the characteristics, because your virtuous constructs, your virtues, your values, they can't be changed. You can have a pliable ethic. You can have a moldable morals. But your values and your virtues, there's something that you hold dear. And it begins with having a love for people. Who am I? I'm somebody who loves people. It's not this gushy, hold hands kind of ick, all right? It's real love. It's moral love. It's a moral love for your fellow human beings. It's wanting them to do better and be their best self. You can't lead people unless you love them. And the reason love matters is because you can't do evil in love. You can't be cruel when you love somebody. If you can do nasty things to people, you don't love them. If you can wait till a Friday afternoon at about 4:30 to tell a father of 3 that, hey, you're laid off, you don't love that individual. That individual was a means to your end. And no matter how you justify it, you're a jerk. Because it means you don't have a love for people. Because if you love that individual, you would let them know, because you've been looking at the books for a long time saying, listen, we might not have room for you in the future, but we're going to start looking at other places for you. We're going to see if there's other companies that are going to be there, and we're going to hook you up. We're going to help you out. Okay? When you love somebody, you can't do nasty things to them. And if somebody's doing nasty things to you in a relationship, they don't love you. And if you're convincing yourself you do, you're fooling yourself. You can't be mean to people you love. You can be honest, but you can't be mean. And you can't be cruel, and you can't hurt. Humility. Who am I? I'm humble. Let me tell you something. If you don't know humility, the universe will eventually ensure that you do. What is humility? It's not selling yourself short. It's putting your achievements and your abilities into perspective so you can get down and empathize with somebody else and help lift them up. That's what humility is. Every morning I wake up and I feel like a fraud. A complete fraud. That's just me. The fact that that long-haired hippie kid with the Mako shark's tooth hanging around his neck is sitting here 23 years later talking to you all, the future leaders of this world, okay? I feel like a fraud. Why? Because it puts my achievements into perspective. I don't like being called Dr. Russell. It makes me uncomfortable. Even in the military, I hated being called sir. It just makes you uncomfortable because you feel like a fraud. And you know what? You should feel like a fraud because we're all full of crap. Everybody you know is full of crap. We just have an ability to put it forward very, very well. Okay? Like, you see this? No. When I first got up here on the stage, I'm like, I have about, 1,000 or so eyeballs looking at me right now. Do you know what that does to a person? So if you can be humble about it, you're approachable, your people want to come to you, you don't have to remind them that you're the best at this, you did this, these are your achievements, this is what you went to school with. Nobody gives a damn. They all know that you did it. Now they want you to help them achieve their success and to learn from you and to grow from you. But if you're narcissistic or a megalomaniac, nobody wants to be around you and nobody's going to come to you. They're definitely not going to want you as a boss. Humility is huge, and it's very easy. Who am I? I'm humble because I put my achievements into perspective. Altruism. Okay, so here's the deal. As a capitalist, as a libertarian, I have issue with the whole idea of altruism. But the one place that I do not have issue with altruism is in the interrelationship with people. As I'm dealing with somebody else in that moment, and as that individual is dealing with me in that moment, I have to be willing to give myself to that individual, and that individual needs to be willing to give their whole self to me. The concept of overall altruism, it doesn't really work in society. Benevolence is a fantastic thing, but within the relationship, it's being altruistic. If you look at the profession that I come from, that type of sacrifice happens. In Worcester, Massachusetts, years ago, they lost a bunch of firefighters in a structural collapse. It was a cold storage warehouse fire. They were dead. And then 12 years later, to the month, one of the individuals that was actually on that collapse, that sifted through the rubble to pull his brothers out so they could get a proper funeral, died in a structure fire in Worcester, Massachusetts, while searching for somebody. So there is that sacrifice. But even that sacrifice is gloried. We understand that there is no nobler pursuit than to lay down your life for your fellow person. So altruism has to exist with people. In the moment, in that relationship. You have to be willing to give wholly of yourself, and they have to be give wholly of you. Let's go back to listening for a second. What does that mean? It means that, and you can tell, you've talked to people, you're like talking to them, you're like blah, 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 blah. You're looking at them, and you can actually tell that all they're doing is thinking about what to say next. What's that movie, Despicable Me, where the little girl's like, they're so fuzzy. They're so excited to say what they want to say next that they're not even listening. In the moment, you have to be altruistic with the people that you're dealing with so you can listen to them instead of thinking about what it is you want to say next. And that's really what it's about. Who am I? I'm somebody that has vision. I'm not just spinning my wheels in life. Vision at your age is, I'm trying to hone who I want to be. I'm not sure yet what I want to be, and you're not supposed to, but I'm trying to hone who I want to be so you have a vision of who you want to be. You want to be a servant leader, a good person, somebody who's trusted, somebody who's liked. You want to be somebody who is surrounded themselves with love and goodness and achievement. You have that vision for yourself. And vision is everything, because without vision, you can't get anywhere. Everything that exists today exists because somebody had a vision. And then other people, granted some of them were, coerced into doing it, but other people were persuaded into doing it to achieve. That's vision. It's, can you bring a dream to reality? Can you bring an idea to reality? And who is it that you're going to bring into your inner circle to make that vision come true? Make sense? I mean, we're kind of honing in about 50 years of readings and philosophy and writing in about an hour. So we're going to go, I promise you, it can get deeper. Who am I? I'm somebody who's trustworthy. The easiest thing to lose and the hardest thing to gain is trust. Okay? Trust is huge. I have trust issues. I need people to actually prove to me that they deserve to be trusted. Trust comes from credibility. Trust comes from behavior. When somebody says to me, trust me, I'm like, no, I want to punch you in the throat. No. Trust is earned. So you're out, you're meeting somebody. I don't know, where did people your age go? I don't know. Where, where? McDonald's. You're at McDonald's. And you meet somebody at McDonald's and you're like, that individual is adorable. And that individual starts talking to you and you're like, oh, they're talking to me. And they're like, I love to hike. And you're like, I love to hike too, in your head. And they're like, I love to go rappelling when I go hiking. You're like, I love going rappelling. And so you get on your electronic devices and you exchange whatever information you need to connect with one another. And a week goes by and you're texting back and forth and you set up a date. You're actually going to get together and you're all going to go hiking. So you take yourself in your car down to, let's say, REI, and you buy hiking equipment and rappelling gear. And you get to the trail, you meet the individual, and you're so excited to see them, you can't tell that the tags are still on your shoes and that blisters are already building on your heels. And you start up the trail. And you get to this individual's favorite rappelling spot. And the individual pulls out their ropes, they anchor them off, and they get it ready. And you put your harness on the same way the stall clerk showed you how to do it. And then you find yourself standing at the edge of a cliff. And you have an 8 piece of rope. And at that point in time, all of your credibility unravels. In your panic attacks, your cold sweats, you go, holy hell, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never rappelled before. And now this individual's like, you're a liar. Instead of saying, wow, that would be interesting, do you want to teach me how to do it? You pretended like you knew what you were talking about. All your credibility is out the window. And once you lose credibility, you lose everything. Nobody will ever trust you again. And that's what it's about. Being a credible individual, being honest. Be honest about your strengths. Be honest about your weaknesses. Be honest. You don't have to remember a damn thing if you're honest. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. But when you try to fake, you try to actually fake your credibility, you lose trust. And once you lose trust, you're toast. You're done. Because trust is where your power comes from. When people trust you, you can get people to do things. You can persuade them. You can get them to take a hill, to carry out a vision. Trust is everything. So if you lose credibility, you're done. Empowerment. Empowerment is as simple as, I believe in you, I believe in your abilities, we've established a trust relationship, I trust you to do the right thing. Some of you in here babysit for people. They are trusting you with their little human beings. Okay? They are trusting you with these little things that they themselves would eradicate the world in order to protect. They are empowering you to have control of their house, to be a steward of their lives for while they're gone and going to the movies or whatever it is that parents go and do. I don't know. To be empowered means somebody gifts to you that trust, That power, they say to you, do it. I trust you to do this. And you're empowered to make these decisions. So when the kid has a sniffle, or the kid is hungry, or needs a drink, has to go to bed, something's wrong, they've empowered you to make these decisions. And more so, they actually trust you enough and will stand by the decisions that you make, as long as your decisions aren't actually, I don't know, wrong and horrible and malicious. If there's no malice behind something, they trust you. They've got your back. And that's what being empowered is. And being empowered, you know that you've reached a level, this gift. When people say, I trust you enough, I empower you to make these decisions, you know you've transcended at that point. Because people actually trust you enough to go out there and to do this stuff on your own. Think about the first time you went out without supervision, or you did something without supervision, whatever it is you do, okay? Your coach, your trainer, your mentor, whatever it was, they're like, you can do this. You've got this now. That's empowerment. It's huge, because you earn it, just like you earn trust. And that brings us to the last, service. Who am I? I'm a servant. I'm a servant to others. Because I understand that being a servant to others is in the rational self-interest and selfishness of me. I do better when other people do better. So who am I? I'm a servant to others. I find happiness in their success. I find happiness in their achievement. That's servant leadership. A servant leader is somebody who trusts somebody, empowers somebody. They build community with people. They listen to people. They can humble themselves for their own achievements so you can actually come up to them and be a part of them. They have a commitment to the growth of others because they know the growth of others benefits themselves. It's this big cycle. It's this ongoing cycle. And that is the low down dirty on the philosophy of servant leadership. And now let's unpack some of the stuff you guys have done. Okay? Who wants to take the first question? What is the role of a leader? You want to do it?
The role of a leader is to serve others,
To
so that everyone can succeed.
Is that what you wrote down in the beginning?
Actually, that is what I wrote at the beginning.
You're the man. Who else wrote that down? To serve. We need somebody with a microphone to walk around. These poor people should not have to yell. That's fantastic. Yeah, they'll bring the microphone over. They're deciding who wants to do it. They'll know how to figure it out, though. There it is.
Okay. So the point of leadership is to serve others to the point where the people you're serving can become leaders themselves.
Wow. And you wrote that down before my talk? What the hell are you guys doing here if you already know this stuff? I'm wasting your damn time. We could have talked about something else. Who else? Did somebody else actually write something else down? It's okay. It's okay. Seriously, I'm not going to yell. That's good. That's good. Two of you. I'm impressed. You're definitely my leadership scholars.
Okay, so I said that a good leader should care about the people who he's over, and he should be an example to those he's serving.
All right, so kind of, the whole idea of do as I say, not as I do really doesn't work. It's be who I am. Not as an individual, you can't be me. You don't want to be me. Being me is horrible. But being a servant leader, being somebody who actually cares about other people and is kind to other people. Now understand, people, this stuff sounds like weakness. I get it. It sounds like weakness. It's not. Believe me, it's not. Who else? What about who you say a leader is? When I say, was that the second? What was the second question? The second question was, what leader do you envision in your head? What individual do you envision in your head? Who wants to take that one? You want to unpack that one? All right, we'll go here and then we'll go here.
I just said Ashley Waite.
Huh?
Ashley Waite.
Okay. How come?
Because she does a lot to show people that it's okay to be themselves, and she makes sure things get done and that everybody feels comfortable.
Nice.
She's
And
also a good listener.
Huh?
She's a good listener.
She is. Is that Was that the first thing that popped into your head?
Well, I said Ashley Washington in my head because I was like, Ashley and George Washington. But yes.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll send a 3-sentence email, and I'll guarantee that I have at least one screw-up in each sentence. And it'll be an important email to, like, my publisher or something like that, and then I'm just like, you're a failure. Yeah, I do that too. Who else? We're going to go back here, right here at this next table.
So I thought of Martin Luther King Jr. because he decided to stand up for what he believed in and what he cared about, and to help others through that.
Yeah. Ironic, he is somebody that pops into people's heads when I ask that question. He's one of the largest ones that comes in, absolutely. Because he changed the world, right? He definitely changed this country for the better. Yeah. Who else? You want to do another one?
My leader would be Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. Okay, so the first African American president of the United States of America. That, in and of itself, is like, from Dr. Martin Luther King, if you see just in that span of how inspirational that really is. That's huge. And that was the first thing popped in your head. Okay, who else? Over here at this table, back here, where you want to go? I'll make you run around the damn room.
I said my dad because he's like my hero, person I look up to. He's a strong individual, and he's brave and kind and understanding.
That's fantastic. I'm the same. I lost my father a year ago. My father was my rock. My father was a hero. He was a Marine. He was a retired firefighter. He was the most loving, kind man I ever met. And he had the ability to rip your throat out, but he just wouldn't. He was just a really nice guy. So yeah, I have the same hero. Not your dad, my dad. But that's cool that you have your dad as a hero. Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, it's great to have more people to look up to. I love it.
FDR.
FDR, woohoo, huge. Have any of you studied FDR? So you're studying him in high school at all? You studying FDR in college? Anybody? Yeah, FDR, Winston Churchill. Yep. Yeah, some of my absolute favorites. I think of leadership and I think of these individuals. Go right here. We'll take one more and then we're going to move on to the third question. I want to hear over here from the peanut gallery because nobody over here is speaking.
Although we may not want to admit it, Hitler was also a leader. He just did it badly.
He was, yeah, it's kind of like you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, you know, Hitler might have killed all these people, but man, was he good at telling a joke. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, he swayed a lot of people. I'm uncomfortable. Yeah, good. That was brave. That was brave. Props. Yeah. Evil, but props. All right, let's go to the third question. Who over here is going to take this third question? Over there in the corner, we got a hand up over here. We got one person. But that's a good lesson, right? We can actually, that is the power of persuasion. Evil is phenomenal at persuading people of doing things.
I think optimism is a really good word.
Optimism, optimistic. That's awesome because I'm an Irish pessimist. But yeah, being optimistic is a good thing. I like it. The funny thing about being a pessimist is you're always happy. You're either happy because things went right or you're happy because you were right. Who else? Let's take one more from this. Any more? Give me one more. There's one. There's a brave soul.
Okay, I think of compassionate. It kind of goes along with the empathy thing. If you're not able to be compassionate to others and like what they're going through, then you can't lead them because they feel like you don't know like what they're dealing with or something like that.
Yeah,
So-
that's good. The thing about compassion, and we deal with it in my line of work, is after a while you do feel yourself getting jaded. When you have to deal with horror and you deal with tragedy time and time again, you start to lose that compassion, and you have to bring yourself back to it and be empathetic and have compassion for others. So who are you? You're a compassionate person. Who are you? You're an optimistic person. That's good. All right, let's take one more.
I think ownership would be a good choice for like a word for
Wow.
that?
Ownership, huh? That means that you have to own both your successes and your failures. Do you know how easy your life will be if you can figure out how to own your failures? If you don't sit there and make excuses up for why things went wrong, you're just like, you know what? I wasn't able to do it. Yeah, there were outside issues that came in, but it's on me. Great leaders own their failures as well as their successes. And they own their failures with their people. So I leave you with this. When you walk out of here, and for the rest of your life, I constantly want you to ask, who do I desire to be? Who do I desire to be to others? Who do I desire to be to myself, to my family, to my coworkers, to my teams, to my friends? Who do I desire to be? The what will come. My what came to me, and then it came again, but it didn't come from my planning because I had no idea what it was. But I was able to define my who, and I want you to be able to define your who, and I want you guys to be successful. I'm proud of each and every one of you that you're here. You got a lot on your shoulders. You really do. Your generation is carrying a lot of weight that other generations have kind of screwed up. Thanks.